Hey everyone, thanks for joining in. Hope you're doing amazing. So there's a story about a calf of a camel that said to his mother, "Mom, why do we have such ugly long legs?" And the mother said, "Because we have to run through the desert, my son, and we need those long legs in order to be able to trudge through the sand." So the baby calf said, "Well, Mom, why do we have such ugly eyes? Why are our eyelids so thick?" And the mother said, "Well, that, my son, is a good question. The answer is because there's so much sand in the desert, and we need to protect our eyes from all of the sand." And so the son persisted and asked, "Why do we have such an ugly hump in the back of us? Why does it look that way?" And the mother said, "The answer to that is because we're the only animal that has to walk through miles and miles and days in the sand and in the desert, and to maintain its water and food supply, it's all stored up there." So the baby calf said, "Thanks for those answers. Great, Mom. But if we're meant to run through the desert and to store all of this, well, why are we in a cage? Why are we in the zoo?" And so that's a very sad reality, unfortunately, for many animals, that they're stuck in the zoo. But it's not just animals that are stuck in the zoo. There are humans as well that are stuck in a zoo of their own confines. And the confines are our clothing. In terms of Kabbalistic terminology, clothing is referred to as something that contains us. And clothing, there are two words in Hebrew for clothing. Okay, ready for this? So let's see if you know what are the words for clothing. Rachel, thanks for joining. So the clothing is levush, is one of them. And there's another one that's called beged. And the difference between those two words is levush means that it's actually expressing something from within you. A levush is clothing that expresses who you really are, who you really want to be. A beged comes from the word bagad, which means to, let's see if you're familiar with that. One of the tribes is called Gad, and that comes from the word to rebel. And so clothing could rebel against who we really are. And we all know that when we wear certain clothing, when we wear that certain dress or that certain, jacket or whatever it is, it brings out something within us that's maybe it's us, maybe it's not us. Maybe it's rebelling against who we really are. And in the society that we live in, there's such a misunderstanding about who we really are, and do we have to dress the certain ways that we need to dress? Does it really bring out who we are? And so the lesson of this week's Parsha, this week's Torah portion, is Parsha Tezave, where we read about the clothing of the Kohanim, of the high priest and all the other priests. And we find that there are four clothing called levushim, and then there's another four for the high priest. And those clothing of the priests are meant to bring out their inner holiness, who they really are. And it's very interesting that we're in the month right now of Adar. The month of Adar is a very auspicious month. The month of Purim, the month of, in the secular world, there's trick or treat. At the beginning of November, I think, where you have Halloween, people mask themselves and they're like, "Oh, I'm this, no, I'm really that." And there's such a vast difference between dressing up of Purim and dressing up of Halloween. And the major difference is that in Halloween, it's about hiding oneself. It's about doing the opposite of revealing oneself. Whereas in Purim, it's taking off those garments to reveal who we really are. We mask ourselves to do what? In order to bring out our real inner higher potential. And so our higher potential is really just hidden inside of those clothing that we wear. And the big question is are we revealing that latent potential? And so the answer is, of course we are. Of course we have all the possibilities of doing that. Why is that? Because we've got a soul. We've got an infinite soul that has such incredible possibilities. And so, just the unbelievable power of your soul has the ability to really just break through all of those rebellious parts of the self that nobody knows, that nobody thinks about you, and that you yourself are like, is that really me? Or is there something greater within me? And so, of course, who you really are, your soul is who you really are. There's no doubt about that. And the way to do that is to realize that we just have to sometimes just bust out. And what I mean by that is that we find Joseph, that it says that the wife of Joseph, the wife of Potiphar wanted to seduce him, and it says that she grabbed his clothing, vatochaz bebigdo. And remember that beautiful clothing of Joseph that he's known for. And Joseph, it says, Joseph takes off the clothing and he runs outside. And he looks out, and at that point, he essentially is saved. And so the way to realize that we have to sometimes wrestle through our clothing and wrestle through the externality that is projected that we think is really us, and that's not really us. So we need to take like a break and just go out and find out that that's just really the big doba. That's really just that part that is the rebellious part. That's not really us. So we need to bust out of those that hole, that confine that has that quite often has over us, and we just need to just come out of it. So that was my thought for the week. I'd love to hear your comments, what you think about that clothing in our society, and what kind of clothing do you have? Do you have clothing that is revealing you, or do you have clothing that is hiding you, that perhaps you're just buying because magazines say so, because celebrities are all wearing it and you want to be like one of them, but is it really you? And who are you really? And that's the big question. Are you being revealed enough? Are you being expressed enough? So the only way to really express and know oneself is to get in touch with one's soul, one's inner light, inner dimension. And doing that definitely through learning. So anyways, that's my thoughts for today. And love to hear your comments again. And check out the site. Check out livekabbalah.com for the incredible depth of learning, connection to one's soul, that is a daily routine that one needs to have. So in the meantime, wishing you all the best, many, many blessings from me to you. And may we all reveal our inner soul. Many blessings, my friends. Shalom.